Hi friends, have you ever thought about what it takes to be successful with meditation? So before we even talk about success with meditation, I guess we have to define what we mean by meditation, since different people use the word in different ways. For instance, one way in which people use the word meditation is in the strict Eastern philosophy sense, in which people spend sometimes years in a monastery practicing these very strict forms of sometimes sacrifice and they fast and so forth, to be able to achieve enlightenment. And that's one way that they use the word meditation. Another way here in the West that we use the word meditation, it would be more like a relaxation thing. So you would sit down, perhaps lay down with some cushions and be very relaxed. And you can try to make your mind blank and perhaps play some soft music and light some candles. And we would call that meditation. Other people use the word meditation in more of a creative visualization sense, so they kind of relax a little bit and they try to go through their day, which they're about to live. In other words, they try to create a better experience, in a creative visualization, focused intention sense. And as you can tell, in all of these different cases, the word that they use is meditation. Meditation is one of those things, for the word meditation doesn't really have a universal definition, but there is the Western mystical tradition which sees meditation as a way of connecting the human part of us with the spiritual part of us. And of course that introduces another term, spirit, or the spiritual. And by spiritual, what we mean here is simply that which is not physical. So if you think of the physical body and the lower part of the mind, which is the intellect, your thoughts, if you think of that package as being physical, because clearly the intellectual or the thinking part of the mind is associated with brain function. In other words, if the brain is not working, the thinking stops. But the mind at a higher level, like the unconscious, does not stop. Because and I've written a few papers about this, one of the things that you find is that in a state of deep hypnosis, a person can experience, not just remember, but experience events that took place when that brain, was a different brain. That brain didn't exist. In other words, what we call a past life regression, a legitimate regression. People who have experienced these things actually experience themselves. They're not just remembering something or dreaming about something, they're actually experiencing events that were associated with a different body and therefore a different brain, which suggests that the unconscious portion of the mind, which is what you tap into in deep hypnosis, that portion of the mind is not associated with brain function. So let's just go back here. When we talk about the physical part of us, we're talking about the physical body, the dense body, bones, muscles, cartilage, that type of thing. And the lower part of the mind, which has to do with the thinking or thought or the intellect. Beyond that, there's something, right? We all acknowledge that. There's an unconscious mind, which is part of the mental world, and then there's something else. And that something else you can call your soul or whatever, but beyond what is physical, we're just going to draw one big, huge, broad line for purposes of our conversation here and say that we have the physical and the spiritual. We're only going to divide our anatomy into two sides, physical and spiritual. So spiritual, for the purpose of this discussion, is anything that's not physical. Now, clearly, those two portions of us are somewhat apart from one another. In other words, the physical part of us doesn't have much awareness of the spiritual nature. And there's a long tradition of different thinkers, philosophers, mystics, who have talked about this discrepancy or this distance between the physical and the spiritual. And they have taught different ways in which we can bring those two together. We can actually bring those two together. You can have an experience of your own spiritual self. And that experience is what we define as meditation. In order to do that, we have to accomplish a few things. One thing that we have to do is train the mind. We have to learn different kinds of techniques. We have to reshape our thoughts and our thinking, we have to learn a few things. So there are a couple of things that go into that. One thing has to do with training. We have to train the mind as you would a muscle. That's one thing. The other thing is we have to learn certain techniques, certain ideas. So that has to do with reshaping the mind. Then we have to do something a little different. We have to actually heal our pain. Look, we all carry pain inside of us until the pain is healed. And it isn't quite so obvious when the pain is healed. Some people have a couple of sessions of therapy and they talk a little bit about what happened to them last week or something. Let me tell you, we have lived for many thousands of years and many things have happened. And as a result, we accumulate inside of us. Eckhart Tolle called this the pain body. So we accumulate all of this pain that oftentimes we have inflicted upon others, but also pain that we have felt and experienced. And we carry that with us. And that pain keeps us grounded. And by that I mean focused on physical life only. And because we're grounded, we cannot meditate, we cannot connect to the spiritual side of us. So we have to heal the pain. And if not all of the pain, at least a great deal of it. And the other thing that we have to do is transform our human nature. Because look, the comparison that I offer my students is, imagine that you have a boat that's taking on water. So you have two problems here. You have a huge opening on the hull through which water is coming in, and you also have a boat that's full of water. You have two different problems. One issue is pumping the water out so the boat doesn't sink, and we're going to call that the pain that you've accumulated, the water that's accumulated there. The other is to transform the hull of this boat so that it doesn't take any more water in. Look, if a person has pain, we're going to project that pain. And projecting the pain means that we're going to hurt others. And when we hurt others, guess what happens? We create more of a problem for ourselves. So healing the pain without transforming our nature, transforming who we really are, is going to result in creating more pain later. So what we have to do is transform our nature. Those are two very different things. And we have very specific programs that we use for both of those purposes. We have a program for healing pain, and we have a program for transforming our nature. Two different programs. But the crown jewel of what we do is the program on successful meditation. That's a 12-week program where we go through this entire process where we teach, we help you retrain your mind. We do this in class, in person, and we go through these meditations over 12 weeks period so that at the end of the process, you can actually meditate. We do some healing, we do some transformation, and we do some reshaping of the mind, some teaching, some learning. You see, so by combining all those three, at the end of 12 weeks, you can actually meditate. It's a fantastic program. And it's not exactly a business. We do this because we're sharing what we have learned. And I think you're going to have a good time if you join us. Get all the details you need by clicking on the link below. And if you're interested in successfully meditating, this program may be for you. Thank you very much, and blessings.